the final push, and this was the final push at the conclusion of yesterday's fourth and penultimate stage, with Jakob Söderqvist surviving from the early break. A confusing and interesting and fascinating stage, truncated on a couple of occasions. Söderqvist thrilled to get in the break. He said there was no break going if he wasn't in it. He made it in, and he got the yellow jersey. He's got the overall race lead heading into the final day of race action. It was a choice day up to Page yesterday. Brutal weather conditions, but a glorious and beautiful and a sunny disposition as well for Jakob Söderqvist, as he controls a 42nd margin on general classification over Benoit Cosnefroy, approaching this final day of race action. Here's what we have in prospect. Relatively short stage, 147 kilometers in total from Lake Balaton. Balaton Almaty is the resort town. To Veszprém, as the crow flies, only about 15k, but we've got a long and circuitous, complicated route, and it's mapped out for the riders out of this beautiful resort town. Balaton Almaty. Veszprém County opened a railway here in 1909, kicked things off. Tour de Hongrie getting set for its final push today. Here's the route, initially into a headwind, up a hill, then we've got an intermediate sprint up the hill again, and then we head off for another route. We've got a delicious little prospect of this Cat 2 climb. We've got 3 laps around in total before we head for intermediate sprints and head for finale in Veszprém. It's about 30k from the final hill to the finale, but we do have the prospect of some crosswinds in between and around and all through the day. This is our destination point, Veszprém, capital of the region. Earlier on today, I can tell you the 100 riders available for signing on. A couple of riders not signing on, unfortunately. We've had a couple of DNFs as well since then. It was a long and sustained and protracted scrap for an early breakaway group. Benoit Cosnefroy initially in an attack. The man sitting second overall, trying to unseat Jakob Söderqvist. Didn't quite work out, but various different trials and tribulations. This was Roland Tene, who was in the dirt for a little while, but he got back up on his bike, or spare bike at any rate. He's back in the main peloton. Meanwhile, our decent-sized break of 7 riders has been hoovering up the intermediate sprints and the mountain points. Eric Vetter placing himself into contention to take the final red jersey, King of the Mountains. And wearing that in the peloton at the moment. Adrian Benito has a teammate in the break, but he hasn't been able to prevent Eric Vetter from scoring at the first 2 hills of the day, to go within 7 points now of the head of that mountains classification, with still something in the order of about 30 points available for any one individual rider between now and the conclusion of this year's Tour de Hongrie. A minor consideration, you might think, but it's going to be of major interest to this breakaway group, which is the first to be seen and be heralded and lauded and sent on their way by a very, very enthusiastic fan base out on the route today. I can tell you, up on the hill, it is a terrific hill, the Tour de Vachonnet, 3k long, and lots of people wearing all sorts of strange costumes, none of which seem appropriate to the weather conditions, but there's definitely a festival atmosphere up on that hill, I can tell you. And dotted all the way around the course, there is a sense of fun, a sense of revelry, a sense of vacation even, which is perhaps appropriate given our location here in the tourism capital of Hungary. Lake Balaton, of course, the largest inland lake in Central Europe. It's 77 kilometers long, 500 and something square kilometers. Huge freshwater lake, and it's it tends to get very warm in the middle of summer. It is not warm today. Difficult moment for the biggest, or probably the best known rider in the breakaway group, Nicky Sarnt. Just having to make a couple of adjustments. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to make his way back in. As we see the peloton going past some fascinating land art. There's definitely a BMW Mini theme about that one. A couple of Cooper S's in there, I think. They're able to get out of the field afterwards. That field's going to be a little bit on the soggy side. Here's the situation on the front of the main peloton as we route our way through the final 63 kilometers. As you can see from the Hungarian flag in the background, well, they're sort of routing around various loops and circuits today, so they'll have everything from headwinds to crosswinds, left and right, and at the tailwind. But here we are onto the climb, third classified climb of the day, the second assault on the Körverseny climb, maximum of 11%, as you can see. It's a relatively benign 5.5%, but that's certainly going to ask one or two questions of this group. But you saw the peloton behind, and the Lidl Trek squad en masse at the front of the peloton. Jakob Sörkvist is easy to pick out, despite the fact that he's got a rain jacket on over that yellow jersey. He's got a nice yellow helmet, so he's protecting that 40-second lead, and he's got his teammates set to the task of controlling this breakaway. A couple of riders in here who had at one stage were in the virtual, had headed to the first top two spots on a virtual classification. The best placed rider in this group is Gerben Kuipers at the back of the group here with that red jacket on. He's a Belgian rider from the Pauwels-Sozen cyclocross team. Jamie Meehan with that burgundy jersey with the yellow sleeves, the Cofidis rider from Mount Charles in Donegal in Ireland. He's second best placed rider in this group at 2 minutes and 22 seconds in arrears, and also within 3 minutes of the race lead. The man at the back here, Andrea Pietrobon from the Team Polti Visit Malta squad, is back at the car collecting gels and collecting a little bit of encouragement and sustenance and a little bit of a push on. And this is the two-time Hungarian time trial champion Erik Vetter, who has been well, he's been represented out front on a few occasions this week. 3 days, I think, out of the 5. This makes it for Erik Vetter. He was the man who launched this breakaway, actually. He was riding solo for a little while. It was a sustained scrap. Benoit Cosnefroid fought in a move that was never likely to be countenanced or approved by the Lidl Trek squad, so they chased it down after a long old scrap, I can tell you. And then subsequent to that, there was a little bit of a stall. Vetter took his leave, and then after a polite pause, 6 riders raced across. 4 initially, followed by Meehan, and last man in was, well, we'll work it out in a moment. Actually, I think it might have been Vetter. Yeah, Vetter was one of the... No, he was the man who kicked it off. Ezra Cowdell joined him quite quickly. Siebe de Weert is in there for the Team Flanders Baloise squad. One of the late arrivals. And Nicky Arndt has managed to make his way back to the group after that little moment. Comfortably the best sprinter in this group. If this move were to survive, you can be sure the rest of them will be attacking the move. They don't want to take this man to the line. Bahrain victorious, and a World Tour squad represented at front, courtesy of the German Nicky Arndt, who has had a busy event so far. Crashed on day 1, if memory serves. Plenty of riders with a tale to tell so far this week. And now there's the yellow jersey, 1 and a bit kilometers remaining. And there is a signal, I think, that the weather forecast is improving. It has been raining substantially since the start of this race, almost sort of belligerently and just non-stop. I mean, it's been 2-3 days at this point, not just in Hungary, all across Central and Western Europe. Indeed, it seems like the whole world has just been visited by rains in recent weeks, doesn't it? And over the last few days. At any rate, Hungary has certainly not been spared. A little bit of encouragement as Siebe de Weert, the Team Flanders Baloise rider, who actually won the King of the Mountains in this event 12 months ago. Back for more breakaway action. He's had a relatively quiet week. His teammates, though, have represented the Team Flanders Baloise squad. Nolan Heisman's going sprinting, albeit the outer reaches of the top 20. Great 4th place finish on day 2 for Elias Maris. Senna Tonon as well, also trying his luck. And we've seen Victor Vercouy up the road a couple of days ago. Super effort from him to make it into the break, but not able to hang on to his Mountains jersey. That went the way of Adrian Benito Gonzalez, Team Polti Visit Malta rider, who finished a fine 2nd on yesterday's stage. Behind the man in yellow, Jakob Sörkvist, 22 years of age, from Sweden, heading, it would appear, towards potentially a major stage race success in his first year He's a fully fledged professional with the Lidl Trek World Tour team. Well, many a slip and all that, so he's making no assumptions, and a solid job has been done for quite a while now by his teammate Christian Ekholm. Himself has been on the attack this week, but now he's settled into defensive mode on behalf of Jakob Söderqvist by setting the agenda on this climb, and indeed on the flat bits and the downhills as well. And as I can tell you, the gap was out to about 2.5 minutes. That's been pared back significantly to inside 2 minutes. So not all superheroes don't wear lycra. Great support. And this is the second time I'm asking up this hill, the third categorized climb of the day, and an opportunity perhaps for the man number 153, Team United Shipping. Another haul of points here, I think, is going to move him up into the lead of this the King of the Mountains competition. Down at the back here, number 95, Andrea Pietrobon. Not able to do anything about, and not seemingly all that concerned, to be honest. He has rolled across the line second at each of the first two climbs, and we have seen actually a couple of days ago that Eric Vetter looked really, really good in the early moments, the early point of the breakaway. Pietrobon's up to at least see what he can do about keeping Vetter honest in this one. Remember, Pietrobon, number 95, his teammate, is leading this competition, so he would like to take the points from Vetter, but Vetter, I think, is going to be challenged here. Maybe Pietrobon has another plan. He's going to try and drop Eric Vetter later on, create a split, save as much energy as possible, try and reduce the amount of competition between them. And curry favour, and the plan would be to go for stage honours today. At any rate, that means that Eric Vetter has taken the 10 points. By my calculations, he moves up into the lead of the King of the Mountains competition. Looked like Steve de Weert who took third across the line, and Jamie Meehan in fourth there. Have had two intermediate sprints with 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds distributed. Steve de Weert taking the 3 on offer at the first of those. Gerben Kuipers at the second. Gerben Kuipers has shaved 3 seconds off his deficit with a break to 6.5 today. Might just be able to move up into a top 10 situation at the moment, though. Yellow. I mean, this is a beautiful situation for the Lidl Trek squad. They're absolutely thrilled with the way things are playing out. None of the riders in the break is a genuine threat, that they've controlled and managed this gap inside 2 minutes. And they'd be happy enough if it headed off up the road and stayed there all day. There's confirmation. Meehan and Gerben Kuipers scooping the final point. But it's Eric Vetter has the 10, heading towards red. Breakaway knits itself back together again. The next climb will begin with 47.5 kilometers remaining. It's Christian Ekholm, by the way, who's doing the legwork on the front of the peloton. He's been there most of the day since this breakaway finally managed to establish itself. Lined up behind him. He's got looks as if it's Norsgaard, Matthias Suneke Norsgaard just behind him, and Chris Schottervergaarde. Jacob Mosca is just lined up behind the yellow jersey. Jakob Söderqvist and Bako Mollema as well, riding shotgun. Elder statesman of this squad, indeed the father of the race, you might call him. He's the elder statesman at 39 years of age. Youngest rider, one of the youngest riders in the race is in this move, by the way, Ezra Cowdell, one of 13 teenagers that began it. We've lost a couple of teenagers over the last couple of days, but Mark Vargas still in the race, back in the main peloton. Loads of groups out the back in the early moments when we had Benoit Cosnefroy in that early attack. Well, the bunch split to smithereens. various different groups sent south, but this one, it has the full approval of the main peloton, and particularly the team of the overall race leader, so they were able to settle in, slow the pace a bit. And the bunch managed to reassemble, but the weather conditions, as you can see, well, in terms of rainfall, it looks as if it's starting to ease up a little bit, and fingers crossed that's the way it holds all the way to the finish line. But it probably is worth mentioning the wind, because that's been north of 30 kilometers an hour with gusts up to 60 kilometers an hour, and that's forecast to prevail right to the end of the day, so don't rule out the potential for a little bit of a crosswind ambush. Looks like a comfy lead, doesn't it? 40 seconds in a short stage race. Well, that ought to be enough for that yellow jersey, Jakob Söderqvist, but you need to be mindful. Having said that, he's got a super strong team. He's got a committed team sitting at World Tour level, and he himself has just about the perfect physique for any bit of crosswind shenanigans that might prevail. We'll see what the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad have in mind, and whether there are any other teams that are similarly minded to try and create a little bit of excitement in that peloton. See if they can disrupt the natural order of things. Having a look at the profile of the course ahead of the today's stage, it did seem as if there might be a potential ambush scenario after the final climb. With about 25 kilometers to go, we plunge down a short descent and then got a sort of a crosswind section of about 8.5 kilometers, which then takes them to a short tailwind, and then another crosswind section, and then a headwind for the final 7 kilometers. And that might be an interesting moment to try and prevent the usual pattern establishing itself. Probably worth talking about the situation in the bunch, by the way. For the most part, we've got all our sprinters all present and correct at the moment, so you might think this is an opportunity for a little bit of GC fighting, but probably the accepted scenario, or the ideal scenario, I suppose, for several of the teams, particularly the likes of Soudal Quickstep, who've already claimed 2 victories this week in the sprint, courtesy of Tim Merlier on days 1 and 3. It might well be that Tim Merlier is able to strut his stuff again, and certainly the likes of Fernando Gaviria, Max Canter for the Astana squad, Juan Sebastian Milano as well for the UAE Team Emirates squad. If it doesn't work out for GC, they'll set up and try and create something to drag a stage victory out of the week. And plenty of other sprinters that have run sort of regularly and consistently in the top 10, including, of course, Phil Bauhaus, who has his teammate Nikias Arndt and lead-up man actually aren't in the breakaway at the moment, so they're sort of hedging their bets. Long way down the line before we consider that, but sort of approaching the final 50k, and teams are going to be thinking a little bit about what's possible. The Team Jaco Alula squad, well, somewhat decimated in actual fact. We have Patrick Gamper just taking his jacket off there, the Australian rouleur, but we have lost a couple of their riders today. Luke Plapp, of course, sitting 3rd overall at 52 seconds, heading towards a podium finish. Frustration for him, best of the GC squad, I suppose, the group of favourites, and they were frustrated yesterday by the elimination of the final 20-kilometer loop, which meant that the amount of time that they had to close down that early break had been radically and drastically altered, with just the minimum, I suppose, of notice, maximum notice possible from the race organisers' point of view. They had to slice off that final lap. Didn't have quite the resources available to support the peloton with all of the medical needs, and it was a practical consideration, entirely reasonable. Frustration, I think, for some teams, but nonetheless, you ride the race you're in. You understand, I think, that the organisers, certainly from my point of view, it seemed like they acted judiciously and with appropriate concern and haste, and it all seemed to be as sensible as you can possibly be when you're trying to make these decisions, assess the situation with a rolling peloton, an evolving race situation. And it all seemed to be pretty pragmatic and made a lot of sense on the day. anyway, they got the news as quickly as they could. Unfortunately, it wasn't soon enough to be able to alter the tactics and close down Söderqvist and Benito and friends in that three-rider breakaway. Of course, it was Akorato as well, also hanging on for a great top 8 finish. So all three sort of surviving riders from the breakaway managing to get something from the day. The big winner was Jakob Söderqvist, who scored that major stage victory, and with its yellow jersey to carry into this final day. There's your leaders out front on the final day of race action of Tour de Hongrie 2026. This 47th edition of an event that can trace its lineage back to 1925. Karoli Jerzebek took the victory on that occasion. The Hungarian star, first non-Hungarian, 1929, Oscar Tierbach from Germany. To the best of my knowledge, no victories so far in the history of this event have gone to a Swedish rider. So potentially history-making event in prospect today. Let me clarify that stat, but definitely it looks as it was going to be history-making for the Söderqvist family at any rate. Yeah, there's no Swedes on the podium actually in the more than 100-year history of this event. It's just the 47th edition of the race, because there are plenty of gaps. You know, ran 1925 through until 27, then a gap, then 29 and 30 through to 35, then a gap, then 37. They ran it again, then a gap through to 1942, then it ran through 43, and then a gap again to 49. So I mean, it was peppered with gaps across the history of the event. But again, as I've said already this week, I think it's a testament and tribute to the resilience and the fortitude, the strength of the brand actually, Tour de Hongrie, that has meant that the race organisers and those that hold the candle of the flame of support and interest for road cycling in Hungary have consistently managed to sort of redouble and regather their enthusiasm and resources necessary to bring the race back to life again and again and again. It's history, but it has had a consistent run now through this particular century. The current promoters have put together a package that has proved very attractive to everyone involved, stakeholders of course, including the local authorities and National Tourism Authority, which gets a great opportunity to showcase what a beautiful rich pasture land this event races through. Beautiful tourism destinations, and gives you a sense of the shape and the colour, and having raced across the great Hungarian plain for a couple of days into the Trans-Danubian Mountains for the last couple of days of racing action. Nice contrast in topography, and yeah, for all that the weather has not exactly played ball, it hasn't, I think, affected the beauty of this countryside pushing through our TV screens. And the weather at least is starting to ease up as we approach now the final 50 kilometers of Tour de Hongrie 2026. Peloton still strong in number. I did mention a couple of riders non-starting and non-finishing. Finley Pickering is one of the Jaco Alulas that unfortunately was called ashore. And Luke Durbridge completed yesterday, started today, but climbed off before the first feed. So clearly he's a little bit of sickness there. That's left it down to Paul Double, Patrick Gamper, who you saw taking the jacket off a little earlier on, and Luke Plapp to try and support Plapp's hopes of securing that final podium position. Kelland O'Brien, by the way, the man that you saw, the first of those crashes on the descent that sort of ultimately meant that that final lap was eliminated from the parkour in yesterday's stage. Kelland, okay, no bones broken, bumps and bruises, a bit of a cut to his ear, I believe, which required a little bit of procedure yesterday evening. But Kelland O'Brien, great relief, I think, as we saw him shooting along the sodden road surface and underneath the Armco barrier between the uprights, between the stanchions, and down into a little bit of a drop. But yeah, he was able to get back up, so that was a source of great relief. Yves Lampart as well was the other rider that we saw off his bike. So a quick step man, no longer part of the race, but thankfully he was back on his feet within moments of that crash yesterday. There you have it. Basically, it's just Gamper, number 33, for the Purple Cloud team. Jaco Lulis go on to support Luke Plapp. Paul Double, I actually saw Paul Double out the back in one of the groups in the early attacking. It looked like he was struggling for a little bit of form. He did a lot of great work actually yesterday to try and set something up, so maybe just struggling to get the legs going in the early moment, the first 10k of today's stage, and that would make sense. But Paul Double, no doubt, is still in that peloton. Approaching the final hour of racing now. We've been ahead of the middle schedule, which is quite impressive from this group. The first half hour certainly was at a frenetic pace. Eased out ever so slightly, set to ramp up, particularly the last sort of 45 minutes on flattish roads once we get that final climb out of our way. We've got two more climbs, by the way. It's a short loop round. What is it, about 15, 16 kilometers? So the hill is sort of repeat. Oh, there we go. There's the Mini Coopers. Oh, are there any Mini Coopers in there? Cooper S's? There's plenty of Minis at any rate. There was another similar piece of land art actually on the approach to the first hill today, which hasn't made our live broadcast, but that was also a similar type of construction where bicycles are created out of automobiles. Seems like good use of resource, doesn't it? Repurpose old automobiles as bicycles. I wonder how many bikes you can make from a car. When it comes to land art, you need about 15 of them to make one bicycle. That's a nice picture, isn't it? Especially after the wet weather that these riders have endured today and throughout yesterday. And look at the way that they're riding as well. It's by no means an easy day. The head-on shot bears repeating, doesn't it? The head-on shot that we get for much of the day from Moto 1 doesn't always give you a sense of how committed these riders are, how much effort and intensity. And it looks to me as well as if we could well have a different team. See the way the riders fan to the right-hand side, looking for a little bit of shelter, the wind coming and approaching the riders from the left. Is there a long enough section that can create the split? Is there the interest in trying to do that? Let's see, and let's wait to find out. Number 132, just putting his jacket in his pocket. That's 19-year-old Ezra Cowdell. Comfortably the youngest and comfortably the tallest rider in this group. It's about 2 meters tall. It's about 6'6", I think, in the old feet and inches. That's Rotom Tene come up to assist with the pacemaking. In a 10 squad have Chris Nylands, who has won this race in the past. Cooper S down to the left. Yeah, Edmar Einhorn, another option for the NSN cycling team as well. And they're all starting to gravitate around as we see still the same man, Christian Ekholm, doing the needful on the front of the peloton. But there's a change about things, isn't there? You come to 50k to go, the jackets go off. That's a nice little souvenir. the back, Jacopo Sasso. Yes, did mention Luke Durbridge and Finlay Pickering, non-finishing and non-starting respectively for Team Jacob Alula. Other riders, we lost Kai de Breukere from the Powell Sozen squad as well, non-finisher today, and Nicolo Galli for the Solme Olmo Arvedi squad, also non-finisher. We lost 9 riders in total yesterday. 3 of them were outside the time limit. I think that'll give you a sense of how tough and demanding yesterday's stage was. Stage getting shorter and shorter often makes the time limit actually a little bit challenging. I've been slightly caught out by it. At any rate, 3 outside the time cut. We lost, there were 3 non-finishers, I think, and we lost 3 or 4 non-starters, so it was a tough old day yesterday. Chris Nyland's just rooting towards the front of the bunch, the NSN rider in the middle of your picture there. Overall winner back in 2019. Couple of stage victories across his career. Jamie Meehan on the front here is the under-23 national road race champion of Ireland. His first full year as a professional racing cyclist. He signed professional terms with the Cofidis squad last year after a string of really strong results as a stagiaire, actually, and they said, well, you know what, we're going to snap this guy up. He's clearly adapting to the professional life very, very quickly. It's a compact style. These hills not proving too much challenge to him. Astana squad moving up on the left-hand side, trying to move Artem Fofanov, who's their best-placed rider. Actually, super job done by Fofanov yesterday. He's 10th overall at 138, inside that top 10. They'll try and keep Max Cantor dry as well. And Team Polti visit Malta, another squad with multiple options. They've got Fabrizio German Crozzolo, who's 11th overall, the best-placed rider. Adrian Benito looks like he's going to lose that Mountains jersey today, though. Go try to find a little bit of something special from late race attacks. And there you go, as if by magic it appears, for now at any rate. Well, Benito, I think, will, even if he loses the jersey today, he'll be just thrilled, I think, to have recorded that second place finish yesterday. Close but no cigar, but I think he had to give best to Jakob Söderqvist, who was the power and the strength, wasn't he, in yesterday's breakaway. But Adrian Benito gave a great account of himself. All crowding around at the front. Ekholm still on the front, but by a matter of just millimeters. Söderqvist now has Bauke Mollema just sitting in front of him, just protecting the yellow jersey. On the breakaway. In actual fact, despite the fact that they're all starting to move up into position, it hasn't had a noticeable effect on the advantage of the riders out front. If anything, they've gained a little bit, haven't they? In the last, 5-10 kilometers, they've added about sort of 5-10 seconds to their lead. So Cowdell and friends, it's Vetter on the left here, the Hungarian rider. Cowdell, the young American, Modern Adventure Pro Cycling team, and the German sprint star. Sprint lead-out man Nikias Arndt for the Bahrain Victoria squad. Well, things are starting to pick up. We'll keep an eye on that ticker there. Still showing just a little bit south of 2 minutes. But going in the wrong direction from the bunch's point of view right now. It's not necessarily a concern for Söderqvist. His overall situation still maintained. Again, to remind you, our best-placed rider in this group is the Belgian rider Gerben Kuipers at 2 minutes and 11 seconds. So 1 or 2 riders in the main peloton might be threatened, but not Jakob Söderqvist. And there's plenty of time yet to close this one down. We've got another 16-kilometer loop after this one, another time up this hill, and then we spear off and head east for home. Final climb will start at 31 kilometers to go. The final climb will be completed with 27.5 kilometers of the day remaining. Down a short descent, and then head east. Difficult roads potentially through to the last 7k, which will be into a headwind. Pinarello Q36.5s just trying to move up as well. Great job done by Walter Calzoni yesterday. Solid work done by Marcel Camprubi. I think that was Camprubi actually that was moving up there. He's 12th overall at 147. Calzoni 6th overall for the Q36.5s. They've got Patacini, who's been solid in the sprints this week. Best finishing position on day one of 6th. So at this point, you've got about a kilometre to the top of this 5.5%. Just shy of 4 kilometres this hill, sort of between 3.6 and 3.9, depending on where you read it. And Eric Vetter taking care of business. Pietrobon, I think, is going out of his way to make sure he takes second place points, but not going to challenge Vetter. He knows that Vetter is a really strong sprinter. As it flattens out, indeed, it dips ever so slightly at the finish point of these climbs. Maybe sees no value in trying to challenge him. Oh, Vetter takes the top points next time, and the penultimate time up. Pietrobon, Nicky Hazard and the rest in his wake. As for Cowdell and Gerben Kuipers in the minor finishing positions. So let's tot it up. So far today, by my calculations, he's taken 35 points as Eric Vetter. He started the day with 8, so that makes it 43 points. And Adrian Benito in the main peloton starting the day with 30, so he's 13 points to the good. Pietrobon himself had 3 points starting the day. He's been second at each hill. So he has, look, can he threaten the final climb? I think it could be a mathematical certainty at this point that Eric Vetter has that jersey. Yeah, 24, so he's 14 points behind. So you can take it as read that the winner of the King of the Mountains title, assuming that he rides it all the way through to the finish line, will be Eric Vetter from the host nation. So that'll be something to celebrate for the Team United shipping squad, which has a considerable presence here at the finish line, by the way. They have a VIP area. They invite guests each of these days, and they make the most of their collaboration with this Hungarian registered continental squad. And their team this week have been very, very active, and they're going to get a final trip to the finishing podium, so that'll go down well. Gap paired back, get a reset of that advantage. Kind of makes sense, that, doesn't it? It did seem as if the peloton just moving across the tarmac a little bit faster. Peloton starting to ramp it up. Finale and prospect as the Lidl Trek squad trying to sort of regain command of the main peloton. Nice Bit of work done there by Matthias Norsgaard, the way he kind of just skipped his way from the right-hand side of the bunch. Little bunny hop back onto the tarmac and then eased his way to the left to locate Jakob Söderqvist. Make sure that he was spending a single extra joule of energy than required. He'll be escorted through to the finish line today. Fire service. Hopefully a quiet day for them, and that their only function and responsibility is to represent here on the side of the road at the Tour de Hongrie. Nicky Hazard taps out the rhythm on the front of this group. He's 34 years of age now. Took a stage win of the Giro d'Italia as far back as 2016. His Vuelta a España stage victory came in 2019. He's quite cracked the Tour de France winning Alchemy, second on the stage in 2017. So Triple Crown not quite attained. Not sure if he's going to the Tour this year, Nicky Hazard. He's a really good rider for the breakaways. Great rider to have in here today. Great, powerful, very strong rider, and a rider who be a great ally to the other riders in that move, because they're going to need all the help they can get as we approach 40 kilometers to go, inside an hour. And, oh, excellent wheelie action from that. Definitely deserves a little bit of airtime, that. Fire tenders of youth. I think the words come through to this group that they need to get their skates on. Ezra Cowdell at the front of the group from Ackworth in Georgia. Look at that. You can see the way the trees are blowing now. That's not just the helicopter, I can tell you. It's not anything to do with the helicopter. That is the gusts of wind that are ripping across this region. I can tell you, driving up here to the finish line, you could feel it in our little hire car, just how impacted you can be. I'm sure the riders are only too aware. These riders know all about it. A minute and a half. Delicate advantage. No time for beat-on redistribution, if that was the request. Pietrobon trying to press on here a little bit. 27-year-old Italian, third on a stage of Giro d'Italia a couple of years ago. Naturally enough, from a breakaway into Lucca. Max Cantor down the back spent most of yesterday in a breakaway. Didn't make it to our television images. No, I think he might have been there and then dropped just as we went live, but tough old scrap to get into the break, and then scrapped hard to stay as long as he possibly could. Didn't score any bonus seconds towards the, or at least any points towards the points competition, but nonetheless, Max Cantor has been really consistent so far this week, and is a great shout, I think, for stage honours today, if he can piece together the finale. 5th, 3rd and 4th from the first 3 stages. He can add those 3 top 10s to the 4 top 10s he recorded back in 2021, so he's 2022 was an actual fact. So his second visit to the Tour de Hongrie proving similarly productive for the German sprinter with the Astana squad. German sprinters abound. Nicky's aren't here for Team Bahrain Victorious. German fast man who has his teammate Phil Bauhaus. Another German sprint sensation. Bauhaus third on day one. And he reset and go again this final day of race action and bookend his performances in the Tour de Hongrie and maybe just go to the top step of the final winner's podium. All very cool, calm and collected at the moment for the Lidl Trek squad, but you are kind of wondering whether they're in similar terms just a little bit concerned about what might happen after that final climb and whether there's going to be any little bit of crosswind shenanigans. There'll certainly be. This castle needs a load of work, but yeah, we've got plenty of castles this week, haven't we? Too many battles, but still needs work. What is that sunshine I see? Kind of watery sunshine that characterizes the sort of break in the clouds in between summer showers, doesn't it? Eyes blinking to try and adjust to the extra light. What a joy. No time to take it in for these riders. There's an earnestness, a busyness about the body language of all the riders, particularly this rider at the back, Jamie Meehan. Fought long and hard and manfully to try and stay into that lead group yesterday. Just got detached sort of close to the final hill, but nonetheless just outside the top 20 at 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Success in the break today would potentially propel him inside the top 20 and maybe even a little bit higher. At this point, I think major objective to try and contest for stage glory, and we have the numbers in here, I suppose, that makes this possible. They've controlled nicely behind, but this is one of the most substantial groups in terms of numbers and quality of rider in it. Has it got the collective strength to be able to resist, and is there a little bit of extra in the tank if they manage to retain something for this final hill and what lies in wait on the run to home from there? This final climb begins, I can tell you, with 31 and a bit kilometers remaining, so about 3K to the base of the final climb of the day. Our final sprint of the day, by the way, with 3 bonus seconds for what that's worth. It comes with 15.5 kilometers to go. And with fully 40 seconds between Benoit Cosnefroid in second and Jakob Söderqvist, your yellow jersey. Hard to see those bonus seconds being of major import. .30 riders within 3 minutes of the overall race lead. We've got 15 within 2 minutes, and just 4 riders on the lead minute, if you will. Jakob Söderqvist with that 40-second margin of advantage over Benoit Cosnefroid. NSN pressing on in the front here, forcing the front of the race into an echelon of fans out, and the rest of the riders in gutter mode. Luke Plapp in third place overall, 52 seconds back. Yeah, it's getting busy here. Eric Vetter, is he coming back from the car? I think he's okay. Meehan is all action, isn't he, just to stay in the wheels. I think there's a big press on here. Yes, he didn't just win it last year, actually. He's the two-time and reigning champion of the Mountains Classification, Siebert de Weert. Hasn't contested today. Went in the break, potentially, if he were to win all the climbs today, just as Eric Vetter has done. he could potentially have taken that Mountains title. It's not where he needs to be. He's won it twice before. He's elevated his ambition, and the young Belgian rider Siebe de Weert, jaw set, head down, gunning for glory today. He's been a pro for a few years now. This is indeed his third year at the Team Flanders Balois squad, and Siebe de Weert still waiting for that maiden professional road race success. The hunger still burns. Main peloton, still those two riders doing most of the work. It's Tene indeed that has probably done most of the work in the last sort of 5, 10, 15 kilometers, much to the delight, I suspect, of the Lidl tracks. They'll save a little bit for as long as possible. Trabon dispensing with the detritus ahead of this final climb. We'll call it the mini climb. 3.6, just over 5%, ramps up to just a little bit over 8%. Nothing like quite as demanding as the Page climb yesterday, but nonetheless, this is the fourth and final time up it, the fifth climb in total today. It has almost as much elevation across today's stage as we had in yesterday's stage. Indeed, yesterday's stage measured 148 kilometers, had, you know, almost exactly the same amount of elevation. What they did, of course, was pair off the last 20 kilometers of that. Mind you, that still had pretty much exactly the same elevation. Tough and grippy day. Lost a few seconds as they rise onto this climb. They'll be desperate, I think, to ensure that it's still north of a minute by the time they make it to the top. That might be an ask, actually. Great support, great investment from the local community here. They're crowding around, and it's not really a minute and a quarter since they went past the local mini club. UAE's also starting to make their presence felt. The NSNs, naturally enough, their teammates doing this work. Q36.5s where they need to be. See how the sprinters get on. Most of them still there, what I understand. So we saw Phil Bauhaus moving with relative ease up towards the front. Is this a climb that sprinters are all going to enjoy? Any of them going to struggle a little bit? Number 46 in the white jersey, by the way, leading Hungarian rider. That's Attila Walter. His sprinter, number 43, just to his left, the Bahrain victorious rider. Then Koznevol we pick out. The second place man overall in that white jersey, down towards the bottom of the shot. Number 21, that's Roy Oliveira, hovering about him. Koznevol working a casquette quite impressively underneath modern helmets. Not an easy thing to do. Nicky Azarn saying remaining sustained. I think we're going to have a slightly different play to this climb. It's not going to be a case of just easing up it and ensuring that everybody is kept together comfortably, and that Eric Vetter can just claim the points. I think this one could be ridden at a fair amount of intensity, and we'll see who's got the legs to hang on. Well, a few riders starting to pull a few faces behind. Rodem Tene is doing a super solid job. Not sure how much more he's got. Christian Acom, it's a hell of a game face, isn't it? He spent most of the day on the front of the peloton. He sits second in line here. Looks as if he's almost robot-like, ready to take it up again and maintain this progress. Even his NSN teammates struggling to maintain position in the bunch, because we're seeing the Lidl Treks line astern behind them. One or two Bahrain victorious riders, and more or less the whole of the UAE Team Emirates XRG team of Benoit Cosnefroy. Juan Sebastian Milano as well. Second and third place finishes from the first three stages, so he's another man in good form. Dual objectives here for the UAE squad. Maybe try and cut up rough and create something. And if that doesn't work out, they've still got Milano for the sprint. Well, there's a good stat. Just has to make it home. He's done the work. He's just getting clarification, I think, on the radio of his point situation. The gap comes down inside a minute for the first time since they took their departure from the peloton. And extended that advantage out to north of 2.5 minutes. At one stage it was about 2:45. Peloton controlling nicely. Still a way to go to get to the top of this climb. Now we've got the UAEs have decided it's time to make an appearance at the front. Look out, Staka Langen. How much work has he done at the front of the peloton this week? And he's arrived. He too rocking a casquette quite impressively. Cars coming out of the gap. Yeah, so I think usually it's around about 30 seconds when they start taking the team cars out of the gap, but this gap can shrink pretty rapidly on a climb. And the commissars at this point can only see this going one way, so final bit of sustenance and encouragement for Andrea Pietrobon, and indeed Eric Vetter here for the Team United Shipping squad. Paul Double arrives at the front for on the double indeed for the Jacob Alula team. A little bit of pressure going on here from the teams closest to Jakob Söderqvist's overall race lead, with Luke Plapp sitting third overall, 52 seconds down. His teammate goes to the front to set the agenda and just tighten the grip a little bit. Söderqvist looks okay on the wheel actually of Luke Plapp at the moment, the overall race leader, sitting behind the third place man. This will be a proud moment for Eric Vetter if he can just hang on here for a little while longer. Points are point situation's done. I think he'd just like to make it to the top of the climb with this group. And it looks as if they are going to be able to stay together, but this is just rapidly shrinking advantage. Potential for a bit of a bun fight. I suspect there's one or two riders going out the back here, but the man with the yellow jersey looks pretty content. Out of the saddle there momentarily, but back in again, solidly on the wheel of the other GC contenders gravitating around him. Luke Plapp in that purple jersey on the tail of his rain jacket clad teammate, Paul Double. The breakaway group, well, they're toiling on the climb. Altogether different rate of progress, isn't it? And for all that Gerben Tyson is, or Gerben Kuipers, I should say, Gerben Tyson, someone else altogether. He's had his difficulties training recently. At any rate, Gerben Kuiper's still in here, setting the tempo. Vetter goes to the front. I think he'll just want to go for a full house today and make it a maximum haul. Why not? He clearly has the legs to do it as well. Superb effort a couple of days ago, actually, when he went up the road into an early break. A crosswind day, wasn't it, after the final intermediate sprint. Took his leave of the peloton, and then a bit of crosswind racing. The echelons creating a small group clear of the rest of the peloton, and Eric Vetter was able to jump into that one, but the gap is down inside half a minute. The advertising caravan of vehicles has arrived at the finish line here. The crowd is starting to increase as well. We're in Veszprém. We're on the outskirts of Veszprém, really, sort of the industrial outskirts of a very pretty town of Veszprém. There's confirmation. Vetter makes it a full house, and indeed Pietrobon is second across the line, the fifth time. And they're hanging on to the lead, but by how much? You can see the way the wind is really blowing, and this is an intense Aeolian contribution here. How much effect can it have? A plunge down the descent for a couple of kilometers on the flat road. More or less flat road, not absolutely flat, but they have them in their sights. The question is there going to be any significant racing between this group, or is it just about control, control, control? That green jersey starting to appear for Tim Merlier, by the way. First time we've seen him wearing it all week, because we did have it on before, but it was underneath the rain jacket. Tim Merlier, 2 victories and a 6th place from the first 3 days of racing action. Soudal Quick-Step man, standout sprinter, and heading towards the victory in that points competition, but he'd dearly like to take another sprint success. Level off in about a kilometre, and then we'll see what's going to happen. The Cofidis squad know all about it. They've got position on the left-hand side of your picture. The Soudal Quick-Step team have that green jersey, 3rd in line. I can tell you, Tim Merlier lost his favourite lead-out man, Bert van der Berge, non-starting yesterday. So they've got to try and find another way. Now, Alberto Dainese has been really, really useful and supportive, and indeed, Yves Lampart, I wonder how he's feeling. Well, of course, Lampart crashing out yesterday, so disappointment. So they are somewhat reduced in number. They have Junior Lesurf 4th overall. They'll look after him for his overall position, but it's only Martin Severcek and Alberto Dainese, and that's a somewhat slimmed down support network for Tim Merlier. That's not necessarily what he's used to. Now, he can freelance with the best of them when you've got his particular characteristics and abilities. And it's far from beyond the bounds of possibility that he can make it a treble, a hat-trick for the week. But Tim Merlier not necessarily going to have the same level of support. What they'll do to his confidence, what they'll do to the way that they can get themselves organised in the final few kilometres. At any rate, that's going to be interesting to see. And again, it depends on them shutting down this group, and indeed making sure that there are no significant splits that they're on the wrong end of. As I said, it's kind of flat roads from now to the finish line, but that's not quite as flat as they were around the Great Hungarian Plain over the last few days. This is altogether lumpier ground, and indeed the next 3K is sort of 1%, so it's a tiny, tiny drag up, just indicative of a sort of an up-down nature of the final run to the line from here. Climbs are behind them. Heading for what looks like a sprint success, or are we going to see splits, because they all want to command it down into this right-hander. Why is that? Because now they're going to go into a position where they're heading east and the wind is coming from the north. Tell you what, that was a bit of a dive bomb situation. Luke Plapp did a super job to emerge from the corner in third place. Where's the yellow jersey? Absolutely welded to his GC contenders and his GC rivals. Koznavois amongst the very first riders around the corner. Luke Plapp. Jakob Söderqvist, all right there. And just where they needed to be. Little look around. What have we got? We have got the potential for something a little bit exciting. If you're in that break right now, you need to get a bit of a rev up. Paul Doble, after his great work, I think this is him down the back. But yeah, chapeau, congratulations, and a thank you from Luke Plapp. He's going to fight to try and stay in there. Tough difficulty for Benito after his efforts yesterday. He's going to go backwards. He's not involved in the overall fight, despite that second place finish yesterday. And he's stepping out of red, but at least he'll have the consolation of that second place finish in yesterday's stage. Now we think about the breakaway group. Look at them, they're echeloned across the road. I've been talking about this all day, and it's playing out exactly as we had anticipated. This is an 8-9 kilometer section. That is a wonderful opportunity to create a massive split here. And Plapp is alive to the danger. So too is Koznavois. And he's got Perikas, I think, is with him as well. So the yellow jersey has made it in here. He hasn't got too many teammates to assist. And they're hoovering up riders from that early break. The Soudal Quickstep squad, it's Junior Le Cerf, I think, is just jogging across here. They got anyone else to assist. And of course, Merlier is hoping that others will close the gap. Le Cerf controls. Söderqvist might look a little bit isolated, but are there enough kilometers for any of the others to separate? And Koznavois absolutely burying himself. Well, the UAE's double representation in here. Not too many other teams can say the same about that. Chris Nylands is in here. Ezra Cowdell has managed to link in. I think Jamie Meehan as well from that early break has also managed to latch on. They got the shout. Nicky Asarn too. Kuipers too. Well, Siba de Weert at the front as they crowd around, and there's no time for Omerzel as well for the Bahrain Victoria squad, sitting 8th overall on the day. And this is a potentially significant split here, because we've got most of the top 10, I think, has managed to link up. They all knew what they had to do. Are they going to continue to ride? Well, you can be absolutely sure that the UAEs will. They've isolated Jakob Söderqvist with 22 kilometers to go. Will they be able to further isolate them, indeed put them behind? Well, the MBH is not represented up front. The continental level squad frustrated, I think, with that one as well. No doubt they and other teams, in a sense, after all their work, have put Chris Nylands into this move. Chris Nylands, 15th overall at 1 minute and 52 seconds, is their best placed rider, former winner of the race. Arndt from the Bahrain Victoria squad is here, and he's got Omerzel, who's just about managed to link up. Omerzel, the Slovakian national road race champion, with a 5 national road race champion. Luke Plapp fancies a little bit of this one. He hits the front. Look at that. He's a superb time trialist. He's a wonderful climber. 3-time road race champion of Australia and a 3-time national time trial champion of Australia as well. He's got all-round game, and he's demonstrating exactly the sort of power that he can generate. And he's created enormous problems here. Problems for Benoit Koznavois, your second place man overall. Siba de Weert's not going to help him on. Neither too is Ezra Cowdell. Those riders from the early break, they're out of energy. And it's a worrying moment here as Luke Plapp goes raiding. And Perikas is hanging on in there, but I'm not sure for how much longer. A little bit of a rise here. Söderqvist is under pressure. Well, I think they're all under pressure. And Söderqvist desperate to try and frantically stay on here. It's 3 riders available indeed in total for the U8 Team Emirates squad. So they're all present and correct. Nyland's Junior de Surf as well, 4th place man. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All present and correct, and you're not going to see Söderqvist riding here anytime soon. Luke Plapp's not going to be asked again. He just moves across to squeeze, and that the yellow jersey's down, the race leader's down, and that was Plapp moving across to squeeze it, which is a standard tactic. But Söderqvist finds himself down, and we're a long way from the finish here. He needs support from his team, isolated. And Söderqvist, watch the squeeze here as Plapp moves across to the right-hand side to put the riders in the gutter and put them in a line-out. A touch of wheels, frustration. I think that might have been Perikas, there was it, that just found himself with the yellow jersey. No one's fault really, that one. Well, Plapp certainly moved across, and the Lidl Trek squad are still drilling it on the front. And now you've got a situation where the game is on, with the riders up front trying to push on. Nyland says, let's go. Luke Plapp is up for this one as well. Le Cerf is in there as well, and you've got, well, 2 and 4. The 3 and 4 overall. And somehow in that moment as well, the UAEs found themselves just a few bike lengths back. Söderqvist quickly back at his bike and quickly into the main body of the peloton. They're all kind of in the, lined out in the gutter behind as well, completely opposite, isn't it? As way the Lidl Trek riders are over far left-hand side of the road, making as much room for other riders to get shelter so that they can get as much contribution from as many riders as possible all the way to close this one down. Koznefroy missed out, and Koznefroy, just in that moment, touch of wheels, Söderqvist went down, and Koznefroy was on a bit of he was in a bit of difficulty anyway. He'd had to close a gap just a moment before, so the man 2nd place overall is also out the back. So the UAEs are not united in support of this this press on from Luke Plapp. Well, Plapp's action there did have an effect on Söderqvist, but you know what? It's kind of standard. That's the way that echelon racing is played, and it is just in a moment things can change. Chris Nyland's pressing on here, and it's 3 against 2 against the bunch behind. The UAEs, well, if they make it up and back in anytime soon, it's going to be a wonderful achievement, but I wouldn't bet on it, because look at this, as Koznefroy frantically tries to retrieve the situation. It looked good for him for a moment. It certainly doesn't look good right now for Jakob Söderqvist, and we've still got 19 kilometers of this remaining. I can tell you that we are going to find that they'll race into a tailwind scenario in about a kilometre and a half. A kilometre and a half, they're going to make a right turn. They'll have a tailwind, and it won't be quite as intense, but it's tough to sort of make up a gap. Let's get a look at this again, just moving across. Because Oliveira was with him. I think that might be Perikas just in front of him. And Koznefroy taking avoiding action, finding himself off the back. So you see at the front, Luke Plapp moves across to the right-hand side. Le Cerf in turn, Nyland's as well. Perikas finds himself in difficulty, and Milano, I think, that it actually got in there. Now we're seeing Söderqvist at the back of this group, so he's in 6th and 7th. Worrying moments for the overall race leader, as his teammate Jacopo Mosca, realizing the danger, picks up Söderqvist. Söderqvist trying to recover mentally, I think, and physically from that frightening moment. And these riders just, yeah, I wonder, was there actually a touch of wheels, or was it just a movement across the road, and they're just sort of, he dropped off that pavement into the dirt, and next thing, he's on the ground, and his dreams of glory in this event hanging by a thread. Because not even able to stay with the group behind is certainly a worrying moment for Söderqvist. Koznefroy's not going to get back on. That's certainly not all that surprising, is it? This is a really motivated group up front. Adria is not going to be able to help them up there. Adria Perikas, 7th overall at 1:21. Great climbing yesterday from him. Finished 9th on the day, and they've just got to go back to the group. And I think that's, I mean, the only sensible course of action. They will at least suddenly have allies in the Lidl Trek team. So dreams of overhauling Söderqvist for victory today, and now Benoit Cosnefroid is actually trying to protect his second place. And the rain's coming again. Just a little bit of a smattering of rain. I can tell you at the finish line here, we're not that far from it. As you can see, 16 kilometers. As the crow flies, it'll be quite a bit less than that, but it is pretty benign conditions. No sign of the rain. No brollies up. No one looking for hoodies. Back of the group, Siebe de Weert up front all day. Now finds himself just frantically trying to hang on. What a show of strength from Luke Plapp. Well, Luke Plapp, power on the climbs, power as well on a flat road in the crosswinds, creating this advantage. It's not yet the 52 seconds he would need. I think he's getting a little bit concerned. You know, there's no time. Well, there's an intermediate sprint here that might be of interest. 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds as well. 52 seconds down, Luke Plapp started the day. 12 seconds down on second place. And the 3 here could prove beneficial, especially if they go all the way to the line. There is, of course, the small matter of the 10, 6 and 4. Let's just pay these ones out, see how it works as Luke Plapp. Sheer strength takes him in front of Chris Nylands and Junior the Surf on that occasion. Severcek up front. I've been saying Le Surf, yeah. Looks like Severcek, isn't it? Absolutely. Yep, that Severcek, how strong has he been over the first few days? And he's representing for the Soudal Quick-Step squad. No sign of that green jersey of Tim Merlier at the moment. Let's see if he's managed to hang on in the various splits. It's a large and expanding peloton, I suspect, but they're not for waiting for the groups behind. If you've been distanced and pushed behind, so all eggs in the... oh yeah, Merlier is there. Merlier is there for sure. I suspect most of the sprinters have made it in, but Merlier's not for chasing because he's got Severcek up front. So the big beneficiary potentially is going to be Luke Plapp. $15K to go, and the familiar style of Bauke Mollema making way for teammates on the front as Lidl Trek try to retrieve this one. By no means is this one a done deal. It's hovering at a solid 18 seconds or so. Still 15K to go. Still plenty of reinforcements behind. We go through got more crosswinds to come after this, though. Yeah, it's Martin Severcek, as you can see, took the final bonus second there. It's not going to be of any interest to him. Chris Nylands too. Potential for him to move up, but he's all about stage honours here today. Tim Merlier in that green jersey, looking for a treble, but he's got his teammate Severcek up front. He won't be chasing. And everyone in the gutter behind Egholm now, who... back on the front. Big gear churning from Bauke Mollema, the oldest man in the bike race. Jacopo Mosca is there as well. Vegard Staka Langen, I can only think, is going to ride through for the UAE team Emirates XRG squad. And Söderqvist has fixed that little problem. He's moved his way. Bauke Mollema just dropping back, not enough energy left for him. Mosca just has a little look around. So he'll root across and try and knit up with the yellow jersey and just sort of ease his way back into the line, because the NSNs are kind of blocking it out. They put 3 riders, which is just going to discourage others from contributing. Luke Plapp doing the lion's share of the work here, clearly the strongest rider. But Chris Nylands with a wonderful opportunity for a 3rd stage success in this event. Söderqvist well, anxious man, I suspect, right now. Still another 30 seconds required for Luke Plapp. Get 10 from the bonus, but he's going to be tough for him to get the bonuses with those other two riders with him right now. I think he needs his teammates to do something a little bit special, but plenty of time to retrieve what's a very dangerous situation. That was fascinating, wasn't it? We knew that crosswind bit of echelon racing was going to come. We're looking forward to it, so were they. And he made it in. He did what he needed to do. And Söderqvist just, not even a moment's inattention, but just the way that echelon racing can sometimes play out. Finding himself forced off the road. And on the deck, Kuznetsov, also a little bit frustrating for him because he was there where he needed to be. A narrower gap for him to close on Söderqvist, but now he finds himself back and in the same group, still in the same group with Söderqvist, albeit now behind Luke Plapp. 22 seconds, and Ekholm has not been found wanting today. Long shift on the front of the peloton, still available for duty. Mosca too. I'm wondering if Matthias Norsgaard didn't make the split and is not there for the Lidl Trek squad. We know that Bauke Mollema has done a few turns, has gone back to recover and go again. Gap going up. Luke Plapp won't be thinking too much about easing up. He'll get a turn from his breakaway companions when he can, when they're willing and able to offer it. Severcek, the Slovakian rider, second in the under-23 World Road Race Championship a couple of years ago, and he's been absolutely superb for the Soudal Quick-Step squad this week. He's done a lot of work on the front of the peloton. Now he's off the front of the peloton with the Latvian Chris Nylans, overall winner of this event back in 2019. Grand Prix de Wallonie also claimed in the final year of the last decade. Not too many wins of late. National Championship medal is probably the most success that he's managed to achieve. A couple of stage wins in his visits to Tour de Hongrie. Can he make it a treble? And Luke Plapp, Melburnian, stage winner in Giro d'Italia last year. He's come to Hungary this year. Well, the gap continuing to rise. Now to 25 seconds. It was Plapp that took the bonus seconds, so his deficit down to 49 seconds into these final 10 kilometers. It's a lot to ask. Hard to imagine how much in the way of reinforcements are there from other teams willing to contribute as they get closer. Here comes Bauke Mollema back for more. Other teams just hanging on the coattails of the Lidl Trek squad. Söderqvist himself not yet asked to contribute. When it comes to the moment, no doubt he will come and give a turn. Plenty of this deficit can be controlled, you suspect, in the final couple of seconds. All cool, calm and collected for Tim Merlier. He'll be relaxed about things. Not too many teammates around to support, but he'll go freelancing for glory later on, again if required. Vigard Staka Langen up and into the line to support the Lidl Trek squad. We're not quite there just yet. Leave it up to them. It's not really their responsibility, is it? It's not really going to affect things for... well, as things currently stand, Luke Plapp has gone into second place overall. So Benoit Kuznetsov is the one that is worried, but I suspect Benoit Kuznetsov wouldn't be too concerned about whether he's second or third on the overall podium. He'd rather see the Lidl Trek squad run out of energy in their effort to try and regain or bring Luke Plapp back. But it's the Modern Adventure Pro Cycling team, having been in the break all day. Have a rider up to assist, albeit briefly. That'll be gratefully received, but didn't last for long, did it? That's Perikas. All hands to the pump. Decision has been made. UAEs are going to chase this one. They're going to try and close this one down. So maybe second place on the podium is something that they want to defend. Out to 26 seconds. Severcek starting the day 41st overall at 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Not a threat neither to Chris Nyland's 15th overall at 152. Might move up a little bit, but it's not a major issue. The real threat here is Luke Plapp. And of course those that want stage victory today would like to get on. Jakob Söderqvist. A moment of fear and worry, but disaster averted for just now. Adrian Perikas looking in all sorts of states of agony, isn't he? Attila Valter just poking his nose out into the wind. Severcek did a really solid job. No victories as a pro just yet, so a win today would be huge for him. Third and second place finishes in the World Under-23 Road Race Championships. Great medal-winning performances, close but no cigar. Now we've got Vigard Staka-Lang, and this could be bad news for our breakaway riders, the likes of the UAEs. Now assisting the Lidl Trek squad, and it's pretty much a headwind home from here. By the way, they've dispensed with all of the tailwind and the crosswind bits, and now it's into a grindy headwind. So the more riders that you have available, greater advantage for the chasers, I suspect. 7.5 to go. Been a wearying week, hasn't it? It's been a terrific week of racing. The weather conditions, well, they haven't played ball, but maybe in some ways that's contributed to wonderful entertainment. And the 27th edition of this venerable stage race, one of the more memorable ones. Is it going to go the way of this man who's starting to make an appearance on the front? I did suggest that eventually he was going to have to bring his watts to bear. I think at this point he's relatively secure from any attack from number 21. It's fifth in the line here, and that's fourth in the line. That's Benoit Cosnefroid, who's second place overall to him. So it's up to Söderqvist. And what we saw from him yesterday, I suspect he's one of the strongest men in the bike race in terms of riding in the line. Jacopo Mosca trying to come around his teammate. He'll hang on in there for as long as he can. And this is all hands to the pump, and this is wearying stuff. The wind conditions, and Söderqvist, after his turn, immediately sinks like a stone and tries to find a place a little bit further back. Needs support from Mosca, actually. Might get a little bit more room to maneuver in and around this group because of that yellow jersey. Nobody wants to be the man that in any way influences, and there will be a talking point afterwards, I think, of that crisis moment for Jakob Söderqvist. But, well, we'll hold that till afterwards, because let's just focus on Severcek, Plapp and Nylands in their bid for an improbable but wonderful success. Even Cosnefroid now has to ride through. Another man pulling faces. Just to ride to the front here is absolutely agonizing stuff. And a rider's doing sort of one turn of about 30 seconds or so, then peeling off and disappearing back. It's really, really agonizing, but it's coming down, and it's coming down inside 20 seconds, inside down towards 15 seconds, and it's these enormous turns, and if you've got enough riders to do them, that's what is the advantage of the peloton. You can do an absolutely enormous turn, sink like a stone, back towards the back of the group. You've just got enough time to recover slightly, latch back on, and then roll back up by degrees, down to 11 seconds, down to the last 5.5 kilometers. There can be nothing held back. Worrying moment, and Luke Plapp's trying to keep them encouraged. Don't know exactly what he said, but I know the sentiments of it. We can do this. I'm not 100% sure they can, but you have to believe. Now the Cajarural squad find a rider to contribute, as Fernando Gaviria made the split. Great second place finish a couple of days ago from the Colombian veteran. Well, he's near veteran. He's not quite a veteran, is he? He's about 31 years of age, and he's in that group, by the way. He's quite close to Tim Merlier. He's about halfway down the peloton at the moment. Gaviria, 7th, 5th, and 2nd place finishes this week. 11 seconds, and inside 5 to go. And Nylands is absolutely fully engaged here. What would this be looking like right now if Söderqvist hadn't hit the deck that time? If Benoit Cosnefroid was still involved in this group, would we still have our GC favourites? Well, the Lidl Trek squad would not have gone up to assist. Neither two with the UAEs. They had 3 riders in that move for a start. And they're swinging around behind as well in that headwind. Down to just 9 seconds, and another huge commitment here from Christian Ekholm. How many more of these has he got? He's been super today. And if Jakob Söderqvist, as seems likely now, is going to claim the final yellow jersey of the week, he'll pay due tribute to all his teammates, and Christian Ekholm will certainly get an extra clap on the back. He's been absolutely mahogany tough today. Plapp plunges down, a little mini descent, refuses to yield. Down to the final 4K. What a week we've had. Began with glory for Tim Merlier on day 1, into Bekish Chaba ahead of Juan Sebastian Molano. And they're coming back here. Benoit Cosnefroid with the surprise but delightful victory on day 2. And De Sexard on day 3. Tim Merlier taking the win ahead of. And here goes Severcek. Wants to be last man standing and maybe just cruise away from them again and re-energize the advantage. Chris Nylands trying to latch on. Luke Plapp finding himself frustratingly delayed, but it might be just a little bit too little too late. Final dead cat bounce from this breakaway effort, which was hugely entertaining. We look forward to it, and we got it. Tell you what, into the outskirts now of our finishing town of Veszprém. And it's playing host to a memorable finale. A couple of little complications in the final 2 kilometers. We've got a right, a left and a right again, all coming inside the final 2.5 kilometers. Well, Plapp's not giving up, and he's still clear of the peloton. Meanwhile, he's got a time trialing potentially back to Chris Nylands and Severcek, and it is the yellow jersey himself, Söderqvist, is lining them out in pursuit. Hopping mad, I suspect he is, and he wants to get back to this trio and ensure that he sets something up. Well, it won't be for him to take the stage victory. He's actually created a little bit of split, I think, potentially in that peloton. We'll talk about that for a turn. Plapp's not quite there, but let's have a look at that and see if there's a little bit of a split. There is indeed in that peloton. Whoa! And Severcek just had to make an adjustment at the worst possible moment, changing the characteristic of the grip levels on that tarmac. Let's have a look, and no, they've knitted that peloton back together again. Söderqvist has managed to just about close it down. The UAEs are setting up. Nodet Milano's thereabouts, or is he? Who knows? Let's find out. Cosnefroid's been in great sprint form. I think he's probably used up his sprint, though, in all his chasing efforts so far. But we're now through those rights, lefts, and all these various complications. There's a slight rising road from here to the finish line from here. I can tell you inside the final few hundred meters, they've got a split left and right of a traffic island. But I tell you what, the way that they're sort of stretched taut here, I don't think it's going to be any major problem. Well, fingers crossed at any rate, that it doesn't cause too much of a confusion. But it was interesting as we drove through to the finish line well inside the final kilometer. You've got a traffic island that will cause them to diverge potentially one side or the other. That's it for the break. What a great piece of work done. And now they're trying to ambush and launch, and is there anyone left to do a little bit of chasing? Is this indeed the Dutch star Mike Teunissen, who created similar confusion and similar attacks, and he might well actually help Severcek and Chris Nylands to stay clear of the field. Plapp's been reabsorbed and Severcek refuses to yield, and behind, Well, we're not getting any sign of the reaction. They've run out of riders, I think, after such a long chase. So maybe, just maybe, Severcek and Nylands. Plapp is back in. It's the Q36.5s. They're trying to set something up. Maybe Barasini is in some good form here. We're approaching the kite just at the end of this bridge. And we'll cruise around and into the final moments. Just a little bit of a right-left, right flick, but nothing. And it's Nylands that goes again. Turnison struggling to latch on. The UAE's in control at the front of the peloton. Suggests Milano must be thereabouts. They haven't quite closed it down. Are they going to survive? Or are they come with a late charge from the peloton behind? It's a cliffhanger conclusion to a superb week of racing. The peloton are going to have the final answer here, and it is the UAE's that are on the front of the peloton. Q36.5's in position as well. Gaviria looks as if he's just at the bottom of the shot and waiting for his moment to shine as well. Max Canter thereabouts, and where indeed? Well, Merlier is just at the bottom of your shot as well. Merlier looking for his moment to come and go for the triple. Gaviria is going to go first, or is he? Because it's Dainese that's going from the front. Long range effort here from Soudal Quickstep, providing a special kind of a lead out for Tim Merlier. Tim Merlier launches. Tim Merlier's going to get there. Tim Merlier! It's a treble. He gets the 3 victories. He secures the green jersey, and it's a fabulous sprint sensation and an almost exhaustive conclusion to a fantastic final stage as Tim Merlier gets up to prevent. And it's Team Cofidis that get the second place. Alexis Renard up to first man to thank the winner at the second time of asking this week. This time it's Tim Merlier. Last time it was Benoit Cosnefroid, but it's Tim Merlier that gets the win ahead of Alexis Renard and Fernando Gaviria. Dainese hung on, I think, for a top 4 finish. Canter, Oliver, and a few others thereabouts, but it's Tim Merlier that gets the win. He is the standout superstar of Tour de Hongrie sprinting, and it's an overall success as well to celebrate for Jakob Söderqvist after a mighty scare. Sensational conclusion, great entertainment, fabulous stage. Everyone's got a story to tell after that one. Well, the break finally overhauled inside the final 500 meters. Everybody went left of that traffic island. And Dainese providing the springboard for the Soudal Quickstep squad. Good way to play it with limited lead-out potential. And Tim Merlier just floats up onto the wheel of Fernando Gaviria, finds himself in the unloved position of having to sprint to overhaul Dainese. Merlier up and over him by the time he got to his teammates. Thank you very much, Alberto. Merlier freewheels across the line. Alexis Renard, another good sprint performance from the Cofidis man. Let's get a look at another overhead angle. Superb drone coverage here. And that, by now, very familiar single-hand salute from the Belgian Tim Merlier, just rubber stamping his status as the standout sprint star of this event. Milano, Canter, all in the mix in the run to the line. And Gaviria again on the podium, not quite able to. Wonderful consistency from the Colombian rider on the left-hand side of shot for Caja Rural. Just hasn't quite got the same acceleration in the final moments. Somebody had to close down Dainese, and that proved to be the perfect lead out for Tim Merlier. Warm congratulations and thanks indeed from Tim Merlier as we savour the sights and sounds of Vesprem and consider the prize winners on the final day. Well, he's the man of the day. Yeah, I knew that they would be great tributes for Christian Ekholm. Huge celebrations for Jakob Söderqvist. What a relief, I think, as much as joy. And Mosca quick to say, you're the man of the day to Christian Ekholm, because not only was he on the front closing down the early move for hours, but then he was available for multiple turns. Let's hear. Few stories to tell there, I suspect. Stories of relief. They had to earn that one. Luke Plan and friends, and indeed the wind blowing. But he talked about his joy for the racing, didn't he? Just 22 years of age, Jakob Söderqvist, heading to that final victory podium now. Major stage race success in his first year with full professional honours as a member of the Lidl Trek squad, and he did talk about how kind of bring it on. He looked forward to the day racing in the rain yesterday, didn't mind the conditions, he won't have minded them today. I'll be interested to see what his thoughts and opinions are about that moment when he just found himself from a position of strength to fighting a rearguard action. Indeed, after he dropped back into the peloton, he was in that group. It seemed to be safely in the group, and then suddenly found himself out the back. And Jacopo Mosca spotted it like a flash. He was immediately able to just drop back and drag him back in. And Söderqvist then was able to make further contributions, but things can just radically shift so quickly in windy conditions, and a really strong bike rider can find himself off the back and in big difficulty all of a sudden, from which it's hard to retrieve the situation. Here's your best Hungarian rider in the race, Attila Valter, huge hero, 2020 winner. His King of the Mountains title actually is from 2020 is now going to be acclaimed, of course, by his fellow countryman Eric Vetter. He's got a trip to the podium. Lots of fans here at the finish line. I think greatly relieved and delighted the weather conditions have improved considerably. Large and enthusiastic crowd, bit of a festival atmosphere here on the weekend. And Patrick Gamper leading in a large bunch of riders detached in that echelon fun fest. Well, frustration for Luke Platt, but he will record third place overall. No change in the overall as far as we know. We're just going to try and see if we've got any update, but from what I understand, I don't think there's any change in the overall. The 47th edition of the Tour de Hongrie is a successful one, I think. All will agree. Challenging weather conditions for the race organisers, reacted to it nicely. There's confirmation of the finishing order at the conclusion of this fifth stage. Tim Merlier getting in ahead of Alexi Reynard and Fernando Gaviria. Dainese making two Stendhal quick steps in the top four. Cantor, Reisberg, Oliver, Borgo for Bahrain victorious. Bessiger, Arvanito in the top 10. Merlier head and shoulders above the rest. He can always find a way. Even if he uses his loses his conventional lead out. Dainese played a really useful role there. It was absolutely the right play, wasn't it? Go for an early launch, make the others chase, creates a lead out for your man. You're getting the win one way or another. All seems easy on paper, but Tim Merlier is able to translate the plans into effective execution. With almost, I won't say monotonous frequency, he wouldn't think that, that's for sure, but he's able to freewheel across the line, already looking behind. It's that snap of acceleration inside the final 50 meters. Instantly opens up a bike length advantage. And that reduced peloton sprint, always an interesting one as well. Everyone's a bit exhausted after that one. That was tough work. Tough work on several of the days this week. It was a bit more conventional on day one, as we mentioned. Merlier getting the win into Bekis Chaba, ahead of Juan Sebastian Molano and Phil Bauhaus on that occasion. Day two going the way of Benoit Cosnefroy into Pax. The Echelon Racing then created something a little bit special. Alexis Reynard from the peloton just failing to overhaul the late breakaway man Benoit Cosnefroy on that occasion. And it's Jakob Söderqvist that survives the late assault on his yellow jersey. He carries off the crown at the conclusion of Tour de Hongrie 2026 ahead of Benoit Cosnefroy. And Luc Plapp gained some bonus seconds, but no change. Gigna Lesurf hanging on for fourth. Fancello, Calzoni, Pericas, Omerzel, Walter, and Fofanov. So no change in that top 10. And off to the podium to celebrate. A nice place to visit, isn't it? Veszprém Castle, just one of the wonderful pieces of architecture to consider. One of the oldest urban areas in Hungary, this Veszprém. Only about 15k from Lake Balaton, by the way, really close to where we started today. And there's the moment. I'll tell you what, had he not been able to get up on his bike, that would have been an interesting conversation afterwards. Was there actually a touch of wheels between them? Just a clumsy little one, wasn't it? Just kind of ran off the road. Did he go off the road? He just definitely found himself unclipping. And Benoit Cosnefroy delayed, and it's just extraordinary in a crosswind, isn't it, where you're just a matter of meters behind the other rider and you're never getting back. All smiles at the finish line. Tour de Hongrie first visited Veszprém in 1962. Hasn't been here in a while though. Most recently 2005 when Zoltán Romak of Slovakia took the win and the title. The last stage start was back in 2021, so good to be back in Veszprém. Chris Nyland's hanging on in there. The arrival from the break of from the bunch of Mike Turnison, just breathing new life into those breakaway riders as Severcek and Nylands dared to believe for a moment, but the UAEs at that point had kind of shifted focus and they were trying to set something up for their man Juan Sebastian Molano, just sitting at the bottom of the shot here. Dainese on the right, just about to launch for the Sedal Quick Step squad. Merlier deep in the pocket at this moment. He just knows how to lay off the wheels and just sort of roll his way onto the wheel that he wants. Fernando Gaviria couldn't have been a better lead-out man from there. And Merlier has so many different ways that he can do it. Alexis Reynard, I think, needs a word of tribute as well, the Cofidis man. No train for him. Two second places this week. So we'll have a final victory podium coming up shortly, an extended ceremony, as you might expect, with the awards of the final classification jerseys of the week, top 3 overall. Hopefully as well, we're going to catch up with both our stage winner and our overall winner. Just getting themselves beautified for the final ceremony. It'll be fascinating to get Tim Merlier's comments about how the day played out. I suppose the presence of Martin Severcek gave him a little bit of a pass and gave so few riders from that team available that there's only one way to play it, and it meant that in some ways it was probably a more relaxed finale than it might ordinarily be when there'd be huge responsibility on his shoulders. And so too for Jakob Söderqvist. Slightly different analysis, I suspect. It'll be fascinating to hear exactly how he felt at the moment that he made it into that split up front created by Luke Plapp, and then summarily ejected in the most abrupt of fashions. Just how he and his team managed to respond to that little mini crisis. No panic. They had the legs for the fight. 7 World Tour teams in this event, and it's a World Tour team that prevails. It's the kind of strength that's required. Had he been from a lower ranked squad, he might have looked very vulnerable indeed at that moment. But Jakob Söderqvist heading to bigger and brighter things indeed after this one, isn't he? He's managed to answer the challenge. After a second place finish in the Tour of Denmark last year, to go one better in this event in his first year as a fully fledged World Tour pro. Sky's the limit. Well, Tim Merlier got the win on the day. 3 from 4 opportunities for him. Stunning return. First visit to the Tour of Hungary. Let's hear from him now. Well, very shortly at any rate.
Maybe the hardest one. Tell me, how was the stage?
The start was again really cold, and then the legs were really bad about it after the rain. Luckily, in the end, was warmer, but the legs, no. But then in the end, I tried to protect Junior for his classification with Jetchlon, so I missed him. But luckily we got Sverchak in. He was really strong, and then I was hoping he can go for the victory because he is still without contract for next year. So yeah, I want to give it away definitely for him and give it a try. And yeah, then we take him back, and then Dainese launched his lead out. Nobody was reacting, and then I was again trying to give it to Dainese, but then in the end I need to decide to launch my sprint and to take the victory myself.
Was this the tactic of the team before the day, or just as you mentioned, you had bad legs and you said you tried to, let's say, give the victory to a teammate and allow them to attack you?
No, not at all. You were only a bit 4 anymore after the crash of Yves yesterday, and Bert, who was a bit sick. So we were only with 4 anymore. So yeah, with 4 you can't do a lot in a race like this. We got the GC for junior, so that was the main goal today. And for myself, it was just try to survive today. And in the end, I survived. We did from there on. We did the perfect race, I think, and luckily we can win the stage also for the team.
And how's your shape now? We all know you had a difficult start of the year, but now you have, I think, maybe 4 wins in the season already, so or 5. So where are you now, and how can you summarize this week?
Oh, it's my first stage race of the season. I felt I'm not on my best level, but okay, I survived today together with the other sprinters. We were lucky with the headwind also on the climbs. But okay, I still have some work to go to the Tour here.
Thank you very much and congrats. Thank you, Tim.
He's old school, isn't he? It's all very simple and practical and pragmatic from Tim Merlier's point of view. He would not have been even remotely disappointed had Martin Severcek survived to take the win. So it's a nice tribute to his teammates, wasn't it? Man out of contract, looking for employment next year, and just to renew his situation, and yeah, that he can support the needs of others. And Tim Merlier, another win. What's that? 5 from 9 days of racing. When he gets his best legs, it's going to be very impressive indeed. Söderqvist has survived as well. He's taken his first overall success in a stage race at this level. Jakob Söderqvist, I believe we're going to hear from your overall race winner, the Tour de Hongrie 2026, very shortly. A mightily relieved man, I suspect, after that one. Relieved and overjoyed. He proving to be able to answer the call and answer the challenge. He's down there somewhere. Well, there's confirmation. Ultimately, 40 seconds. We're hearing actually that he will be with us very shortly, but the medical team have just arrived. They've got to mop up a little bit of road rash accumulated in that late race spill. So no major medical intervention required, but just a little bit of cleaning up required. So hopefully we will catch up with Jakob Söderqvist and get his thoughts on ultimately a very successful day at the office. They threw down the gauntlet, Benoit Cosnefroid and Luc Plapp, putting it up to the young Dane, or the young Swede, I should say, and he was able to answer that challenge in fine style and preserve his 40-second margin over the Frenchman.
Jakob Söderqvist, congratulations, the GC victory, but it was a nervous final hour, let's say. First of all, how are you? We saw you crashing, but you managed the situation well with the team and still won the race.
Yeah, no, I'm actually quite well. For sure, it was a hit, and mostly it's just the stress of the situation, because it was a big work just to be there and to be on the wheel of Papi and Cosnefroid, and of course also, yeah, just surviving up there. He was really on a mission, Plapp, today, and he kept us on the gutter as he should, and really put us under pressure. And then with how strong the wind were, we were really fighting on the last centimeters of the road, and then I was the first down to go down there, and yeah, it was really a hectic situation, but everything was just a team effort today. Like, I went on my own yesterday, but today I was nothing without the team, so it's really something to celebrate for us all.
Were you expecting a hard start like this, and basically, just like you said, Cosnefroid went all out attacking at the first part of the stage, then the finals. So was this something you were ready for?
Yeah, of course. We expect our rivals to really challenge us as hard as they can, and they did. In the end, I think Plap a little bit more than Krosnefar in the end. UAE quickly wanted to change the tactic a bit more towards Molano we saw for the sprint, while Plappy really went all in to try and make the difference on the GC. Yeah, it was really what we were expecting in a way, but yeah, we really handled it together.
Thank you very much, and congratulations once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great words of tribute, wasn't it, from Jakob Söderqvist? And great to hear as well that there was no sort of words of criticism or censure for Luke Plapp that squeezed that one. Tried to stick them all in the gutter. Fortunately, Söderqvist ended up on the ground, but he was able to respond to that one. Responding well on the day as well, Tim Merlier. Ultimate glory again for the Sedal Quick-Step squad. Their third stage victory from 5. He's got a jersey to collect as well. Tim Merlier, your winner of the 5th and final stage in Vesbrem today from Lake Balaton. And a piece of glassware.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 3-time stage winner, a háromszoros szakaszgyőztes, Tim Merlier!
72nd career success for the 33-year-old Belgian. Seems to get better with age.
Congratulations, team.
Preparations for the Tour de France continuing nicely. He says he's a little bit away from his best condition, but you know what? That's fine too. Further confirmation. But once again, Alexis Reynard has to make do with second place podium. Close but no cigar for Fernando Gaviria. He's honing his form nicely. Alberto Dainese, also a nice top 4 for him. And Cantor as well, great consistency from him during the week. Ben Oliver in the top 10 once again. Costume changes required, and 1 or 2 extra riders as well for this victory ceremony. Final classification jerseys. Finish line crew here is just breaking down the finish line barriers. Finish gantry, all of the various temporary buildings. Circus is leaving town. Not before we award some jerseys.
Ladies and gentlemen, finished on the first place in the general classification. Is riding for Team J. Alula, Lucas Plapp.
Well, he gave it a mighty swing today. Luke Plapp quite able to break out into a smile. Objective not quite achieved. Nonetheless, great third place finish from him, and certainly, were it not for his presence today, we wouldn't have had anything like the same level of entertainment. Hugely strong.
He's riding for UAE Team Emirates XRG. Benoît Cosnefroid.
Benoît Cosnefroid, stage victory and second place overall. Again, he would have liked to have emerged with the overall success after yesterday's stage. He probably felt like second was as much as he was likely to achieve. So I think all in all, he'll feel reasonably good about it. But this man, happiest of all.
Is riding for Little Track, Jakob Söderqvist.
Mark the name. Super strong and destined for great things. At the top step at just 22 years of age. Relieved, overjoyed.
Kerékpáros, a Team J. Alula kerékpárosa, Lucas Plapp.
There's your top 3.
Az összetett a második helyén végzett a UAE Team Emirates XRG kerékpárosa, Benoît Cosnefroid. a vízilfalkon 365 át támogatott sárga trikó, egyben az összetett győztese, a Lidl Trek kerékpárosa, Jakob Söderqvist!
Well, they got a good one, that's for sure, didn't they? The Lidl Trek squad have their development team, the Lidl Trek future team. Jakob Söderqvist coming up through that under 23 development squad. Their belt of talent taking over very nicely. One for the future. Bauke Mollema, of course, his first and last participation in the Tour de Hongrie. He's heading into retirement at the end of this year. Let's hear the national anthem of the winning rider. For the first time in the history of the Tour de Hongrie, Du Gamle du Fria, you ancient Juvry, rings out to celebrate the victory of a Swedish rider.
The crowd is waiting for it.
Final race of the day. They're all going Lando Norris on it, but it's Luke Plapp that wins that one. And
well done, Benoit, well done. Enjoy it, guys.
Well done, one and all. You've earned that one for sure. Not too many French riders have mounted the podium either, and not too many Australians in the history of this event, although there have been in the past. But yeah, it's a fresh look to the podium, isn't it? Fascinating conclusion to the week, final two stages. Certainly worthy of any national tour. It's your top three in the final yellow jersey. A few more classification jerseys to be presented. Final confirmation once again of the top 10. No change in that top 10 on the final day, despite all the crosswind shenanigans and the various challenges and difficulties. And Cielo found fifth place finish for the MBH squad. First non-World Tour rider. Calzoni as well has emerged this week as a rider of some caliber and strength. Pericas too. Made a name for himself. Not just yesterday, but today as well, representing for the UA Team Emirates XRG squad. Had three riders in that echelon split. For a while at any rate.
And the winner of the points classification wears the green jersey, which is sponsored by Skoda and Europcar, is riding for Soda Quickstep, Team Molly!
Former Belgian and European road race champion. 7 times a winner of stages of Grand Tours, and Tim Merlier, 33 years of age, now the winner of the points classification of the Tour de Hongrie. His first visit to this event, a memorable and a happy one for the Belgian rider.
A Soda Quickstep kerékpárosa, Team Molly!
3 wins this week.
Még egyszer nagy tapsot a 3-szoros szakaszgyőztesnek, Team Molly!
5 wins for the season from just 9 days of racing. The season a bit late, shrugging off those little knee complaints, and looks to be in fine fettle indeed for the battles to come. In the end, it's a commanding advantage of 24 points over Max Canter. Gaviria, great consistency from him during the week. Alexis Reynard too. Benoit Koznefal, the first non-sprinter in the list of points classification riders. Adrian Benito from the break. Söderqvist and Ekholm similarly. Of Merlier, and the points classification and the green jersey going to a sprinter. Always seems somehow right and proper. It certainly has its decreed and anticipated.
And the winner of the red jersey, which is sponsored by Cofidis, is riding for Team United Shipping, Eric!
Huge moment for this young man, emerged from off-road racing into road racing in recent seasons. Couple of national championships in the time trial, and now he is the king of the mountains in his home national tour. Objective achieved. 2 specifically tough days in the breakaway. Actually 3 days in total. 3 days out of the 5 he was up the road. A lot of kilometers accumulated. And at the end of it, just reward. First Hungarian king of the mountains since 2020 in the Tour de Hongrie. In the end, a commanding lead. His advantage, 23 points over yesterday's breakaway hero, Adrian Benito. Andrea Pietrabon making it 2 Pulties in the top 3. Vetter claiming the final red jersey of the week. Not the only Hungarian that's going to appear on this victory podium. The best Hungarian jersey to be presented just yet until you hear this third cheer.
The best Hungarian riders who won the white jersey, which is sponsored by Magyar, is riding for Team Bahrain Victorious, Walter Attila!
Attila Valter makes it to the podium one way or another. Just outside the top 10 for the Team Bahrain Victorious rider who won this event back in 2020. A warm celebration. She finished ninth overall, 1 minute and 34 seconds, so inside the top 10. And starting a signal that his legs are coming good. On his move across from the Team Visma Lisa bike squad, racing for his own opportunities this week as well. He'll have enjoyed that. The years in the service of others at the Visma Lisa bike squad, and start of something special starting to bubble up for Attila Valter. In the end, 16 seconds between them on general classification. That the difference between Attila Valter and former podium finisher, overall podium finisher in this event, Martin Dina, the Hungarian national road race champion, second in the battle for the white jersey. And that difference between them established on the climbs in and around Page yesterday afternoon. Mark Varga, the youngest man in the bike race, just 18 years of age. Ninth in that classification and made it home after 5 tough days of racing action, particularly the last 2 days. There were riders outside the time limit yesterday, so Varga and friends did well indeed. A big moment for them. And all of our jersey classification winners presented to the crowd here. The final moments of and 4 separate winners. It's kind of satisfying. We get to see all 4 jerseys. What would we do if someone had won more than one?
Congratulations, guys! Gratulálunk, fiúk! Fantasztikus hét volt.
And a proud moment, isn't it, for the 2 Hungarian riders to be presented to the crowd. Attila Valter, Hungarian rider, and Derek Vetter, the younger man. But yeah, that's a nice moment. Make for a nice photo at home. Now, any more prizes to present? The team classification, perhaps. I'm not sure who won that, but Team Polti Visit Malta had the lead going into the final day. And indeed, there you go. They've been presented on the stage with their award. Pretty narrow margin, actually. Just 10 seconds over the MBH banks going into today's final stage. But all 6 riders managing to complete, and all 6 fated on the stage here in Weesbrem at the conclusion of the Tour de Hongrie. Your winners of the team classification: Team Polti Visit Malta squad, Adrian Benito, with a 2nd place finish earlier in the week, Tommaso Besega, Fabrizio German Cruzzolo, best placed rider, Dario Giuliano, Andrea Pietrobon in the break today, and Gabriele Raccagna. Opportunity to spray the bubbly for the Italian-based squad.
vagyunk az oldalszélén. Congratulations, guys! Great job!
Yeah, confirmation just 10 seconds between them at the finish of this fifth and final stage. So Team Pulte visit Malta, trip to the podium for them. H-Bank and UAE Team Emirates second and third in that classification, as we now reflect on 5 great days of racing action. I'll leave you with these final images from 5 tough days and a great final day of racing. My name is Declan Quigley. I've had a great week in Hungary. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. We look forward to the 48th edition in 2027. But for now, from all of us here, thanks for watching during the week. We'll see you out the road sometime. It's bye for now.